Okay, so I'm going to do a quick video that I'm drinking one of my beers that I made. It's okay. Out of all the beers I've made, which has been a lot over the years, this is the one I'm the most disappointed in. And, sorry, I'm disappointed in it, basically just the flavor profile. I kind of compensated in areas that I knew better than I should have. Like I knew better than what I did. And I did it. And I knew the results were not going to be what I wanted it to be. Even though I was like, what were you thinking? I'm like, I don't know. And so, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. But it's not something to pour down the drain, but it's also not something I'm like cheering about either. But anyway, you don't really care about my homebrew issues. Make sure you join the Discord down in the description box below. We do talk about beer and liquor and cryptocurrency and the real estate market here and everything. We talk about everything, right? And it's unfiltered. The only thing we don't talk about is politics. There's some other things, but mainly politics. We don't talk about that. But this video is in response to someone on the Discord who said they were wondering about how close homes are. They noticed that my house, there are houses that are kind of close, and if that is typical of Tacoma. And the answer to that is yes. The closer you get to downtown, the denser you're going to see. That is a very common thing. Now, our homes are as dense here as they are up in Seattle? No. You're still going to get more of a yard here. Our lot is not that big to begin with. It's not that big. And to be honest with you, when you choose a house in Tacoma, you're kind of, you find what is that you're going to be able to live with, and you deal with it. Because if you try to find, I'm looking for a house, with 3 acres and, all of this, you're going to be paying for those 3 acres. It's not like back in Indiana or Kentucky where you can get a nice house, like really, really nice, with a nice broad front, wide yard, big, huge backyard. You just don't, it's not like that here. If you do, A, you've had your house for a very long time, or B, you're spending a lot of money to do that. It's just not common. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. Noelle came back from the store. She was getting boxes so we can ship something out. So anyway, yeah, if you're from another place where it's not as dense, then yeah, you're going to be able to get what you're wanting. But if you're here, unless it's a very old lot, then no. Meaning if it was back in the 50s, 60s, then sure. Zara's being ridiculous, so she's going to be a little loud. Then yeah, you may be able to. But generally, no. What you see a lot of, and this is what happened with this lot, where I live used to be an apple orchard. So Tacoma back in the day had a lot of different fields and farms and different things. And one of the relics, a throwback to that time is the Blueberry Park, which is not far from here, Charlotte's Blueberry Park. And so that's a throwback, because there used to be a lot of different fruit farms and different things, apples and all that, all around this area. And when you talk about some of these homes, you only had one home and then you had like a pretty big farm, right? That was just kind of the circumstance. Then as time went on, some of the original homes, like this was one of the original homes here, that house next to us was one of the original homes here. You may have had a couple of homes, but the rest of this was just farmland and dirt roads and orchards. So when it became a little bit more modern, a lot of these, they put in roads where they needed to be, and they basically split the lots up kind of weird. So a lot of the lots are like a jigsaw puzzle, because they're just there's no uniformity. When you go back to Indianapolis, for example, all of the neighborhoods, we call them the vinyl villages because all of the homes look the same. You have 5 different models, but yet, and so they'll space them out or whatever, but they're all the same floor plan, basically. A couple of different colors, but generally they're all the same. And we call them vinyl villages. Well, their lots are the same. So when you look at their lots, the layout, the width, all of that is generally the same thing. It's very uniform. That's not the case here. Here, there's really no rhyme or reason. You may have a very long backyard and a front yard this big. It's a little bigger than that, but a very tiny front yard. You may have a big square as a lot, where you have a lot, like for example, there's a house where they have no backyard, but they have a huge front yard. Their backyard, there's an alley. So the house, it's a nice one too. It's brick, 2-story, sitting towards the alley. So their technical backyard is big enough to basically park a car a long ways. But their front yard is huge. Well, not huge, but you can put another house there and you would be fine, basically, right? So there's others where it's just weird. It's just weird. So in Tacoma, they were building houses however they could. Keep in mind, we were a military town, as well as a marine city, meaning that we dealt with a lot of cargo and rail and all of that. Some of the homes, not necessarily here, some of these were built by companies. So companies are just going to put up whatever they could, wherever they could, and call it a day. So some of the homes that you see, the lots are just, there's no master developer. They were just a company that says, okay, I got 3,000 workers. I'm going to need this many homes. Let's just build them. It's not like a planned community. You don't have planned communities in this part of the country. So, or if you do, they're not in cities. You just don't have that. Now, is density as bad here as it is up in Seattle? No. You're going to get more land for what you're paying for down here than you do up in Seattle. It's much denser in Seattle. It's even more denser in places like San Francisco. San Francisco is ultimately dense, super, super dense. To give you an idea, let's look at San Francisco's density so that you can have an idea as to why you can see neighbors' homes. Now, there are some people who in San Francisco, they can definitely get away with having quite a bit of land. There's a neighbor that has enough land to put 3 houses on, but there's also an electric substation next to them, and their lot goes in like an L. So it goes behind that, and because there's another house behind it, and the way the topography is, I guess the city felt like they couldn't break it down and put another lot. I don't know. But they really have enough land for 3 lots, or for 3 homes. If you look at San Francisco, they have 17,246 people per square mile. Okay? San Francisco's density, 17,000. Now, Seattle, for example, is going to have a little bit less, or quite a bit less, because San Francisco is very dense. Seattle has about 8,000 people per square mile. Okay? Per square mile, 8,000 people. If you look at Tacoma, for example, Tacoma's population density is about 4,200 people per square mile. Okay, so take a square mile. So go a mile this way, a mile, make a rectangle, not a rectangle, a square. A mile this way, a mile this way, a mile this way, a mile this way. So make a square, each side a mile. In Tacoma, you have 4,000 people who live in that, over 4,000 people. Okay, so now let's take a look at Indianapolis. Okay, now Indianapolis is a very big city in terms of population. But when you look at the population density of Indianapolis, it's 2,270 people per square mile. So that gives you an idea. So yeah, you can space out because you have there's no barriers there. In Indianapolis, there's nothing that's going to stop you except for running into another city. Here, you have mountains, you have water, you have native land, tribal land, however you want to say it, that's going to limit you. So, as well as other cities. So you really don't have that ability. If we were to look at Denver, for example, Denver's population density is about 3,698 people per square mile. So still, Denver has less people per square mile than Tacoma. So I've had some people say, I don't want my house to be too close to other people in Tacoma. And I noticed, like, you can see your neighbor's window. Yeah, you can. I don't like it either. But that's very common. And what's even more interesting is recently the city passed an ordinance where basically the whole city boundary. Now, Seattle has done this. I'm getting tongue-tied. Seattle has done this a little bit. Basically, it's called upzoning, meaning that a developer can build up. Now, I think Seattle has done it more drastically where you can build big buildings in certain areas. But here, you can build 3-story buildings anywhere in the city. They've passed a law that says 3-story buildings. So you can build an apartment building right next to a house as long as it's 3 stories or less. So, we were talking on Discord where, one of the members said that there was a house torn down. Somebody built 3 houses on the same lot, 3 houses. Just down the street here, there was a house. They knocked it down, put 2 houses up that sold for $400,000 each. That gives you an idea. The lot we're on, as small as it is, they can technically tear this house down, put 2 houses on it as well. The way that they build houses here is different. You see the blocky, they look like Lego blocks. The way they build houses up in Seattle, that's kind of similar to down here. They're still more home looking versus kind of square and boxy. But yeah, that's kind of the case because they have to pack a lot of people in. So the city's going to make it even more of the case where you're going to have even closer, not only where you can see the person's next door. Like I can see everything someone's doing. I can hear every conversation. I can hear the people behind me. I can hear the people next to me. I can hear the people across the street. It's a very densely packed area. It's the most densely populated place I've ever lived. If you look at Bowling Green, Kentucky, for example, my hometown, it's 1,631 people per square mile. So if you take a square mile of my hometown, 1,600 people live in it, right? 1,600 people. When you look at Tacoma, Washington, as I mentioned, I put Tacoma, Kentucky. There's no such thing. 4,170 people, and that's outdated. So, yeah, you're not going to even the hoity-toity places, houses are close together. It's not about money. You can spend $600,000 and still be right on top of someone. You do have, once you go over to Tacoma and places like that, where it's kind of like houses are built along the hillside, they're looking down over the water. You have houses up above you looking down over you, right? You can't escape it in Tacoma. Now, are there some hidden gems and unicorns? Sure. You'll find some lots where you have that, where, you have a big old huge lot and you got a little house there. And yeah, it's a throwback from back in the day. You don't really have that anymore. If that house becomes available and a developer will buy it up quick and knock that house down and really try to maximize. And you've seen that even now in Proctor, I believe, where there's this huge dispute going on and neighbors are trying to sue the city and blah, 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 because the developers put in an apartment building right where houses were. Like, imagine an apartment building, several floors, 6 or 7 stories tall, right next to your house. And so that's the cost of living in a densely packed city like Tacoma or Seattle. It's worse in Seattle. When we look at Bellevue, it's not going to look even any better. Bellevue, where houses are more expensive than Seattle, it's similar to what you see in Tacoma. 4,335 people per square mile. And you're talking homes that average close to $1 million. So and now some of the homes you look at don't look that great, but they're still valued a lot because it's Bellevue. That's what you're going to see. This is a very densely packed urban area. It really is. Now, when you start going further and further out, yeah, you're going to start having a little bit more space. If you want, some space between you and your neighbor, Bonnie Lake is a good example. You can go out to Midland, you can go out to Spanaway. It's changing, but you have to go out into the counties. King County, you have to go out into the county area. There's still farms in King County, Seattle. You have to go out. You have to go out. Even the suburbs are dense. So just because you moved Federal Way or Kent or Des Moines or whatever, Tukwila, they're still dense, right? It's still not going to be comfortable for you. So that's why I said Tacoma, Seattle, Bellevue, this region is not for everyone. If you're used to living in a place like, I don't know, a city that has sprawl, like Houston, Atlanta. I know people from Houston and Atlanta. If you're used to that and expect that to be here, you're going to be disappointed because you won't have land like that. Even Bill Gates's house, and he's up there. He's got monies. Not money, he's got monies. Bill Gates's house is sitting over in a very exclusive neighborhood over there close to Bellevue. And even he doesn't have a whole lot. I mean, his lot is massive because his house is huge, but still, it's not what you think. It's not like what you see in other places. It's the same way in Los Angeles. Like, if you go to the West Coast is very dense in places where people really want to live. Even in Los Angeles, it's 7,000 people a square mile. Like, it's dense. It's just the way that it is. It's a very densely packed area. So if you're not accustomed to that, it's going to be kind of hard. Now, I do everything I can to try to shield my neighbors out as much as possible because I don't want people like every time I'm, about to eat a steak, people like, I don't want that. But you're going to have a little bit of your privacy infringed upon. It's just kind of the situation. Now, I will say this. If you want to make money quick and good money, this is kind of the sacrifice, right? You can move far out unless you have a job out there that is paying you a lot of money. Typically, people don't. But here is where you make the money. You know what I mean? Like, here's where you can make quite a bit of money if you know what you're doing. So there's trade-offs for sure. But anyhow, wanted to go over this. Yes, houses are pretty dense. There are those, ones that aren't like that. And if they're for sale, you're probably not going to be able to afford them because it's going to be expensive. Because they're going to sell the house for a lot of money if they do have it for sale. Make sure you join the Discord, which is going to be down in the description box below, where you can ask questions all day long if you would like. You can DM me if you want. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment. Until next time, I will see you. Take care.